VR opinions are stuck in the past. A lot of people tried it once years ago, and that one rough night became the story forever. So when Star Citizen VR comes up, you hear the same 5 lines on repeat. Text is unreadable. You'll get sick. It's just a gimmick. You can't fight. It's too heavy. Those takes keep people from getting the right information. So today I'm clearing the air, not with a bunch of hype or copium, but with simple reasons and simple fixes. Bad VR doesn't feel kind of off. It feels like your brain rejects the whole thing. Somebody tried a rough setup once, got nauseous, or had a bad experience, then kept repeating, VR is trash forever. So here's the deal. This video isn't VR is perfect. It isn't you need VR to enjoy everything. It's just my perspective on the many myths surrounding VR right now. So I'm going to break down some of the tired comments that show up under every VR video. If someone hasn't touched VR since 2020, these are probably some of the comments that you'll recognize. I'll tell you what's true, what's not true, and what causes the bad experiences. And by the end, you'll know one simple thing. If VR feels off, it's not a mystery. Most of the time, it's one of a few problems that could have been fixed. Myth number 1, you can't read anything in VR. This one refuses to die. The constant cockpit text is too blurry. MFDs are unreadable. You can't see anything clearly. Here's the truth. There are 3 things that make something easier to read: resolution, lens clarity, and proper scaling. Modern headsets with high resolution can render cockpit text clearly. Not perfectly crisp like a 4K monitor inches from your face, mind you, but clear enough to read without much effort. The problem is usually in how it's set up. Text will look blurry or not as clear if your resolution is low. The sweet spot gets smaller if your IPD settings are off. If your headset can't resolve fine detail, you'll usually have a hard time.
Can you read, my son?
That's not the game. It's the same setup issue I'm talking about here. And when you have better clarity, something interesting happens. You stop staring at the text. You don't sit there reading every single number. You glance at it and then focus back on what you were doing before. That's how pilots work. We quickly reference the instruments in the cockpit and then focus on flying the ship. In VR, that flow feels natural. On a monitor, you move your mouse. In VR, you move your head. There's a big difference. So, no, text is not unreadable. If it is, something in your setup needs to be fixed. Myth number 2, motion sickness is inevitable. This one kind of makes me mad because it scares people away. Motion sickness in VR isn't random. You can usually see it coming. It happens when your eyes and your inner ear disagree with what you're seeing or feeling. It's what's called sensory conflict. It's what happens when your brain receives contradicting information from your different senses. If your eyes say you're moving, but your body says you're still, your brain throws a fit. It makes it think something's wrong. That reaction can often make you feel sick. So what causes that conflict? Usually it's because of unstable frame pacing, latency spikes, low frame rates, artificial turning that doesn't match head movement, or rapid camera shifts. Most of that is technical. A more stable experience will reduce motion sickness quickly. Many players never feel sick at all. Others need time, but ultimately the brain adapts. The same way people adapt to boats, cars, or flight. But here's the key point. If you tried VR years ago and felt sick, that was a different era entirely. Many of the key areas that make us motion sick in the first place have all improved. You can't judge today's experience based on hardware from a decade ago, let alone 5 years ago. Is motion sickness possible? Of course it is. It's just how our bodies work. But it's not guaranteed. It's manageable and predictable and doesn't just happen immediately. Now, if you find this type of content useful, hit subscribe. I'm going to keep calling out bad takes, and I'll keep the fixes simple so you can actually use them. All right, myth number 3, VR is just a gimmick. This is the one that I probably hear the most lately. That it's something you try once, say that's cool, and then go back to your normal setup. This perspective often stems from a limited experience, a quick session that their friends said, hey, try my VR headset really quick. Maybe it even came from rough performance, or even someone jumping into VR assuming that it'd be set up perfectly from the beginning. So they assume VR is just the latest trend that some content creators posted on social media. Not me, I wouldn't do that. Don't look at me. VR doesn't add spectacle, it changes your perception. Star Citizen is a game built on scale and timing, on judging distance and feeling speed, even understanding where you are in three-dimensional space. On a monitor, your brain translates that information through a flat frame. You read depth as an estimate, and you interpret motion. In VR, your brain stops estimating. Distance starts to feel correct. The size of a capital ship filling your view hits quite a bit differently because it occupies space in a way your brain is truly able to recognize. That's not a gimmick. It's your brain believing that what you're seeing is real. If someone tried it once and bounced, that's perfectly fine. Most of the time, it's because the illusion broke. When the illusion holds, the gimmick label disappears very quickly. And that's the real difference. Myth number 4. You can't fight in VR. This one usually comes from people who have likely never tried it. Dogfighting in VR feels quite a bit different from the normal experience on a monitor. Distance and closure rate feel real and are easier to perceive. In the game, the canopy frames your view. You're not just staring at a rectangle in front of you, you're inside the ship. Now, does it require fine-tuning to get it just right? Well, yeah, everything does. Your brain needs a few sessions and your settings need to be dialed in. But once it clicks, tracking your target becomes extremely intuitive. You move your head, scan with your eyes, and you track your vector and your targets visually. You actually begin to read space in 3 dimensions like it's second nature. FPS combat works too. You judge range better and feel height differences more clearly. Is it perfect? No, but it is absolutely playable and an amazing experience. And for many, it often becomes hard to go back once you've experienced it. Myth number 5, it's heavy. Your neck will hurt. This is arguably one of the most dramatic comments I've ever seen. Most high-end headsets weigh about 2 pounds, and the weight is balanced well. If 2 pounds on your head is unbearable, well, you probably have bigger issues. Now, to be fair, that can be a real thing. If you've got chronic neck pain, old injuries, migraines, or anything that flares up from sustained pressure, even normal headset weight can be a bit rough. But for those of you who don't have chronic pain or actual neck issues, as someone who's worn a ballistic helmet, night vision, and a counterweight for hours on end, not necessarily because I wanted to, but because I had to, and also worn a helmet while riding a motorcycle for 4 hours, okay, that one I admit, that's because I wanted to. But to be fair, this is one of the biggest complaints that really doesn't make any logical sense to me. But I'll fully admit, that's my opinion. Neck strain, though, usually comes from poor fit. Either something is making the device front heavy, your straps are loose, or you've just had a 2 to 4 hour session in VR without even so much as a short 10-minute break. This isn't from raw weight. You're not wearing a steel bucket on your head. You're wearing a balanced device designed for comfort and adjustability. And yes, you notice it at first just like you would notice your headphones, but your brain slowly filters it out. And if 2 pounds is a deal breaker for you personally, don't worry. Star Citizen will find other ways to hurt you. Here's what all this is really about though. VR isn't a graphics upgrade, it's a perspective upgrade. It's improved situational awareness. It changes how your mind judges size, spacing, and speed, and changes how moments land. A hangar really stops being a backdrop and starts feeling like a massive room you're standing in. A ship doesn't just look big, It looks like it has mass. EVA doesn't feel like just another part of space. It feels like distance has consequences. That's often the part that people miss when they call it a gimmick. They're judging it like it's a feature checklist, when the real payoff is what it does to your sense of presence. Do you need it to enjoy Star Citizen? No, but when VR is dialed in, it makes the game feel harder to ignore. The same scene hits with more weight because your brain embraces the illusion. If VR feels rough, it's almost always one of three things: clarity, steady performance, and UI scaling. When those three things are handled well and your headset is set up correctly, VR stops feeling like a project and starts feeling natural. But when one of them breaks, the illusion collapses, and people blame VR instead of the real issues. Now, Pimax has an upgrade program. You can show proof of a previous headset and you'll either get more savings or bonus gear, and you don't have to ship anything back. If you're already shopping, Pimax has a promotion from February 13th to the 28th, and you can use my code HAVOC. If you invite a friend and they buy before June 30th, you'll both get a free Lighthouse faceplate. Using my code will also give you 3% off your order, which I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Most of the loudest VR opinions are old arguments from old hardware, bad experiences, and general misinformation. A lot of people never revisited VR, and so they just kept repeating the same lines like they're still current. If you're curious, test it with a real setup and treat it like you would in a sim gear. Get the fit right, get the image clean, and make the motion stable. Then make your decision. Now, I want to hear from you. Which myth did you believe? And what's the one thing that would make you try VR again? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you want a deeper dive, watch my last VR video. That one's all about what matters in Star Citizen VR and why clarity and scale change the feel of cockpit and the world. And if you want to support the channel beyond subscribing, consider becoming a YouTube member. It helps me keep making these deep dives, and you'll get members-only channels in my Discord, recognition in every video, and more. And if you want to help me track how the community's feeling over time, I'm also running a short anonymous pulse check. It takes 3 to 5 minutes, and it will give me an overall snapshot of how the community's feeling about certain releases. That link is also listed in the description. As always, thank you for watching. Fly safe, pilots, and I'll see you in the verse. HAVOC out.